Once in the misty kingdom of Elderwin, there lived an old king named Alden. His beard had turned white like snow, and his hands shook when he held his golden cup. He had ruled for nearly 50 years, with justice in his heart and a sword in his youth. People loved him, but he had no son. Only one child remained, his daughter, Princess Myra. Princess Myra was clever, kind, and strong-willed, but in the world of crowns and thrones, being a woman was never easy. The king's advisers often whispered, "She should marry a prince. The throne needs a man beside it." But Myra was no ordinary princess. She had trained with the castle guards, read every book in the royal library, and solved border conflicts better than her generals. Still, the old king worried. One chilly evening, as the king sat by the fire, he said to Myra, "I am dying, child. Before I go, I must make one last wish." Myra held his hand tightly. "Anything, father." He smiled faintly. "I want to see you married. Not to a prince of gold, but to someone worthy of your heart and this kingdom." Myra nodded, her eyes heavy. "But how will I know who is worthy?" The next day, the king invited suitors from all across the lands. Princes came in carriages lined with silver. Dukes offered chests of jewels. One even brought a white tiger as a gift. Myra met them all politely, but her heart remained still. She knew her father wanted her happy, but none of the suitors saw her as more than a crown with a pretty face. One boasted about his horses, another spoke only of battles. Myra smiled, nodded, but quietly crossed each name off her list. Meanwhile, in the lower parts of the castle, a new stable boy had arrived. His name was Taran. He was quiet, respectful, and quick with his hands. The horses trusted him instantly, and he fixed a broken saddle in less than an hour. Myra first noticed him during a storm when he covered the horses with blankets before the nobles arrived. Later, she saw him giving bread to a hungry child near the gate. Days passed, and suitors kept failing strange tests. Myra had designed small challenges. One day she asked a prince to feed the palace dogs. He refused, saying it was beneath royalty. Another day she gave them a map and asked how they'd save a flooded village. Most had no answers. Myra began to lose hope. One night she found her father coughing blood into a handkerchief. His time was near. That evening Myra walked alone in the stables to clear her mind. There she found Taran talking softly to an old war horse. "You were brave once," he whispered to it. She asked, "How do you know so much about horses?" He answered simply, "They don't lie, they feel your heart." She smiled. For the first time in days, she laughed. That night she sat by her father's side and said, "What if the right one isn't a prince at all?" The next morning, the king announced something unexpected. "Since none have proven worthy, we shall hold a kingdom-wide trial. Any man, noble or not, may attempt the challenges. The one who shows courage, wisdom, and kindness will win my daughter's hand." The nobles were shocked, the commoners were thrilled. Farmers, blacksmiths, scribes, and yes, even Taran signed up. The first challenge was a trial of strength, not in sword fights, but in saving. Each man was taken to a flooded town and given wood, rope, and 2 horses. Only a few saved all the villagers. Taran worked late into the night, carrying children on his back and rebuilding bridges. Myra watched from a distance. She was impressed. The second challenge was wisdom. They were asked to solve a conflict between 2 feuding villages. One had water, the other had crops. Many men suggested war. Taran suggested digging a canal to share both. "If they fight, both lose," he said. The judges nodded in silence. The third challenge was compassion. Each man was led to a hidden village where no one spoke the royal language. They were told to help however they could. Taran stayed 3 days, cleaning wells, planting seeds, and learning the villagers' signs. He made a boy laugh by juggling apples. When he returned, the villagers followed him all the way to the gates, waving. As days passed, Taran stood out, But when the final challenge arrived, everything changed. A letter came, claiming Taran was a criminal who had once stolen food during a war. The nobles shouted, "He is a thief! He must be punished!" Myra demanded proof. Taran stood tall. "It's true, I once stole bread, but not for myself, for a dying woman and her child. I've lived with the shame, and I've tried to make it right every day since." The room was silent. Myra stepped forward. "And you have. The trial was not to find a perfect man, but a good one, and you are the best among them." The king, weak and fading, called Taran to his bedside. "You remind me of myself before the crown," he said. "My last wish is now fulfilled." A week later the king passed away peacefully, with Myra and Taran at his side. His funeral was attended by thousands. Myra wore black, but her eyes were full of strength. She was crowned Queen Myra of Eldorwin, and her first decree was bold. "A man's birth does not decide his worth. Let skill and heart rule this kingdom, not blood alone." Her second decree was to marry Taran. Their wedding was not like others. No gold dragons, no fireworks shows. Instead, they invited farmers, healers, teachers, and children from every corner of the kingdom. The feast was made from local hands, and the music played by street musicians. Myra wore a dress stitched by palace maids. Taran wore a simple cloak made from his mother's shawl. They exchanged rings under the same old tree where the king once played as a boy. Years passed. Eldorwin grew strong and kind. Queen Myra ruled wisely. Taran never took the title of king, only guardian of the people. He spent his days visiting schools, helping blacksmiths, and listening to the problems of villagers. The nobles who once mocked him now respected his quiet power. One day, a foreign king asked him, "Why did you never claim a throne?" Taran smiled, "Because the real throne is earned, not built." They had 2 children, a son who loved to read, and a daughter who rode horses like the wind. They grew up not in pride, but in service. Myra often told them, "Your grandfather's last wish was not about a wedding. It was about legacy, about choosing love, honesty, and courage over gold and names." One winter, Myra returned to the same fire where her father once sat. She looked out the window and saw children playing with wooden swords, shouting, "I'm Queen Myra! I'm Taran the Brave!" She smiled and whispered, "You got your wish, father." And far away, the wind seemed to carry the king's final blessing through the trees.